What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am Delusions, and today we are going to be talking about a new event that has hit the MU universe right now, that being the Eagle Sacred Tree. Now, this is something that we've seen in the past, but for those that are still progressing, gives an extra opportunity to either pick up one of the older ones, or pick up a new one, depending on how old your server is and what level you are. So if we look in here, we've got a nice list of little daily accomplishments that we need to hit in order to start collecting some of these puzzle pieces here. So they're pretty straightforward, doesn't require a whole lot of extra participation. Um, this should all be obtainable just by playing normally. But it offers some really great rewards as far as when we are talking about our different eagle companions. So as you can see, starting from the bottom here, it's going to give us one of these spirit lots. Now these spirit lots are going to be used to, in turn, go through and be able to spin the wheel to test your luck and get a chance at getting one of the newer eagle companions. But not only that, but it's also going to turn around and it's going to give you a full set of gear. So you'll get one for your weapon, one for your little bell, some wings, and some talons. And this right here is huge in itself, especially for those that are free to play, just because now you can gain a good little chunk of combat power without having to really invest any or try to overcomplicate things by going through different packages. So this is a nice fun route that you can go through. It's also going to give you a basic holy spring water as well as a intermediate spring water along with two of these eagle cookies to boost your reputation with your friendship with your eagle. Now, as we've talked about, some of this here, we also have to talk about the other side as well, is what comes with the packages. So in here will technically be three different packages. Um, as you can see, I've already kind of completed a couple of these just for testing purposes to make sure that I can, bring you guys the most accurate information. So what I have found is that when we are looking into the eagle treasure itself, it can be a little misleading as to what should you focus on, what what can I do to maximize my experience with all of this. And if you take a step back and look at it from a perspective of knowing that we've got a wheel that we have to spin in order to have a chance of obtaining some of these things, what we will need to do is try and take advantage of as many of those spins as possible to give us a higher chance. Now, they will have various amounts that would go from, I think just a couple bucks up to 30 or $40 or something like that. But I highly recommend if you are going to invest in this event that you try to pick up those, just because it's going to be more beneficial for you in the long run. And then you could come back and you say, okay, well, I really want to push this to the maximum. What are my options? Where do I need to begin? I would at least recommend picking up one of each of these, of the affection package as well as the food material, just because they do offer quite a bit in terms of value. Um, but if we hop back in here and we go ahead and we look at the Seeker of Fate, as you can see, I went a little gung-ho on this one, just because I was very curious. It was the first time that I'd ever tried to really max one of these boards out, so I figured, why not go ahead and, put in the effort so that you guys could see if this was going to be something that you would be interested in doing. So a little background on what you get in here. Of course, as you can see, you get all these basics, intermediate, and advanced uh, holy spring waters, but this is the main thing that everybody is going to be trying to follow. Um, what is nice about this one is that is going to give you some things that are going to be really beneficial as you start to progress through your level 600s and above levels. That being some of the elemental attack and elemental defense, um, along with being able to increase your base attack by 3% and decrease your PvP damage by 2%. Now, it does have a lot of different skills, and we'll touch on those shortly. But I just wanted to kind of make sure that everybody is aware that I do not expect anybody to go out and do this. Um, it is what they could be considered as fake CP, because if we hop out of here and we look into our rankings, it doesn't change my overall equipment rating at all. As you can see, the equipment rating between myself as well as Porter, there's only about a 3 million gap. Uh, but that being said, I'm a little bit more underdeveloped when it comes down to my evolutions or upgrades, just because when these events start rolling out, and to be able to provide, good feedback and good information for you guys, I don't usually prioritize as much as I probably should. But then if you click over here, you can notice a huge change. Now, is all of that wasted? No, not really. But I do feel like the value is much higher than it probably should be. So as you can see, we've got roughly a 40 million difference in CP. Um, but if we hop back in here, I'll try to explain this a little bit better. Uh, when it comes down to these, they just have such a higher face value um, than all of the other ones, because these are, of course, considered your legendary ones. That's not a starter one or anything that you're going to be able to level up anywhere outside of doing these events. Um, but even if you know you want to be a low spender, you don't want to invest too much, I would highly recommend at least trying to get the first copy, just so that you have it, you can play around with it. You're still picking up some of those passives and those skill talents, um, and then we can see a little bit more. But if we turn around and hop in here, this is where things get complicated. Um, So as you start out, you can purchase one singular spin for 0 diamonds, right? So that in itself is really big. Then they have another option to where you can unlock um, another slot to where you could equip another eagle. Now, before everybody starts blowing up in the comments saying, "Oh, can you have two eagles out at one point in time?" And that is no, you can't. You can only have one equipped or on display at a time, or else the screen would just be just overloaded with birds flying everywhere. Um, but not only that, they have this right here that's introduced to. It's the Millennial Meteorite Iron, and what this is used for is to be able to upgrade from um, a purple armor piece to a red armor piece. Um, but with that, it requires a little bit more investment than just having this piece, because not only are you going to have this, you're going to have to be able to have something to feed into it. Now, it's going to function similar to an awakening on your gear pieces, or if you're trying to go through and do evolutions on your gear. It's going to be the same concept, except it has to be of that same variety that you are trying to put stuff into. So if you want to go with this metal claw right here, you're obviously going to have another metal claw to go into it. Same for this bell, same for the wings, same for the talons. Now, what separates this from one to the other may seem, minimal, or you don't really need it. In all actuality, you don't need it. But if you were going to go and do this, all of these that you see here in the shop for, 1288 are going to be your purple gear. Um, and then when used in conjunction with this here and another, say, piece of purple gear, you're going to have a 100% success rate to upgrade that piece to the next level. Um, But you can also feed your blue pieces in there. Granted, you are going to need an absolute ton of those because each one only gives 5%. You start at 0% and you have to make it to 100%. So essentially, you could be feeding uh, 20 pieces of gear, and mind you, they all have to be of the same variety. Um, in order to get one piece maxed out. Uh, so I've gone ahead and went through the trouble of doing that for you guys, and we can go ahead and take a look at it now. So we'll hop over into our Eagle section. As you can see, there's a difference. You know, some of these have the blue armor, some of these have the purple, and then you have some of these have the red. Um, so we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at it. So this is a near maxed um, Undead Eagle King. It's got a nice model to it. I really like the colors, the glow, and just the general aesthetics of it. Looks quite different, in terms of how they had the Paper Hawk, which this is going to be the other bird that is going to be available in the lower levels. Um, but not going to let that one steal the show. So as you can see where we're sitting at now, I've got roughly 15 levels before I hit that level 180 mark, and then I have another short grind to be able to get it over the hump and completely max it out. But as it sits right now, the current CP that it's offering us is 4,617,000. Okay, so again, that is pretty massive. I believe it's still overinflated, but it does have some nice benefits. So it's not only is it doing that for us, it's also going to increase our HP by 1.7 million. It's going to allow us to have 73,000 extra attack, 31,000 defense, and then on top of that, it's going to increase that defensive value by 5% and attack value by 14%. Uh, but the list goes on and on. So on top of everything, this is what we're getting, 5% to max HP, 5% to increase damage and decrease damage is up 10%. But for anybody that is investing at this point, you know what your focus is. You want to stand out in arena, you want to be competitive, and you're in it for the long haul. So, this is an investment that you're doing for yourself that makes you happy. So that's where we want to keep it. But increased PvP damage by 5% is pretty big, but this right here, decreased PvP damage by 13%, that right there is where your bread and butter is going to be. But as we continue down, you'll start to notice that we're decreasing um, our skill damage by 40%, increasing that same skill damage by 15. Um, and then once you start getting more pieces turned red here, which we'll hop over in a second, it is going to start allowing you to gain strike ignore on there, and then some other different benefits that will inevitably, contribute to this overall total. So when we're looking here, just for a base, so let's see, this is what you will be left with when you finally max it out on each piece is you'll get 3% strike ignore, and then since this is the weapon, it will turn around and give you an additional 3% on top of the 5% PvP damage increase. As we start to transition over a little bit, you'll start to see there's going to be some other attributes that are going to be added towards the bottom end and the middle, but it's still going to or maintain that same 3% strike ignore, but instead of gaining the attack, we're going to be decreasing that PvP damage that we're going to be receiving, as well as boosting our defense by an additional 5%. And then same going down towards the wing here. So not focusing on the strike ignore um, as overall chance, this is going to be the damage that it is going to be increased by, and being a flat 8% is fantastic. But we're also going to be again gaining an additional 5% on attack and decreasing our decreasing our damage by another 10. Now, once I get that to here, um, what we're going to be left with is again, another strike ignore damage increase of 8%. Looks like it's going to boost our HP a little bit, boost our attack a little bit, and our defense a little bit. Um, and then it's going to offer a little bit of a step up from a 3% to a 5% on our maximum HP. So that could be, a million or so, possibly. Um, but when we're talking in terms of, hey, this is my class, I want to do the most damage, you also get a 10% damage increase on top of that. Now, how does all of this play together? Well, you get what you put into it, or you get out what you put into it. So, um, as you can see, I have already unlocked this slot here. So it's going to give you a bonus option on here, which is going to decrease our PvP damage that we receive by 3% while boosting our elemental attack up by 2%. So though I'm probably halfway through on my 600 levels, I feel like elemental attack is still going to be that um, big role that's going to be playing in the background. So we always want to, stay on top of, getting all of our dailies done and contributing what we can into those different placements, and just growing continually. And then if I was to have already had this unlocked and picked this up here, that would give us, an additional 5% on our PvP damage, and then 3% on our elemental defense, and would allow us to go ahead and equip yet another eagle into there, which is essentially taking these two values and then adding those together. As you can see, 1.4 million there, and then 4.6 million here brings us up to around 6 million. I would have thrown this one in, but I unfortunately did not have enough investment back at the time to be able to get this one put up there. But another fun thing to do is work on the intimacy of your uh, your little avian friend. And so I had just recently got this one maxed out, so I went through all 50 of these. Um, and this is what we're left with. So it's actually going to boost our weapon option bonus by 100%. It's going to give us 369,000 health, 14,000 attack, 3,500 defense. It doesn't give us any kind of increased skill damage until we start upgrading it further, but it is going to give us that flat 25% decreased skill damage, which is going to make so much of a difference going into the arena or any kind of competitive engagement. Um, then, you could really kind of get technical with it and jump straight into all of these different feeds that are going to be across all varieties, and they will all contribute to the overall CP as well as what you saw when we had everything combined there with the two eagles. Um, But yeah, each one of the has its own little quirk or little benefit. So this one here increases your skill damage by 0.5%. This one decreases it by 1%. Um, and then it's just primarily just base stats. So your HP, attack, and defense. Nothing too crazy or, you know, that needs to be, really dove into to give a good, understanding of it. Um, But with that being said, that pretty much covers this event. But again, I hope that you were able to take something away from this and utilize this. I know that the video itself has gone quite long, but I feel like I needed to be, very thorough with this and explaining, because this is not, your everyday occurrence. We may see these events come around every once in a while. So it's best to, have all your eggs in one basket, and that understanding process of what is it that I want to take away from this, and what am I able to invest to be able to make that happen. But with that, I am Delusions, and I am out.